This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports. Good morning and welcome to the Big Football Show. I'm your host, BA. And of course, I have with me Jack Hirsch and Keith Engel. James Martin shall be with us momentarily. He's having technical difficulties. But, Sunday morning, what can you expect?
Right.
How you fellas doing this morning? I hope everybody's doing great. It's snowing here. I don't know what's going on over there in your neck of the woods, but yeah. Cold, yep. Anyway.
Winter.
Let's get into go ahead, Keith.
Just winter.
Yeah, it's winter. Yeah. What do you expect? It's December. Anyway, getting to college football, we had a whole bunch of conference championships going on last night and Friday. The big ones were basically two of them were played at the same time, but then we had the Big 12 and the MAC championship earlier in the day. They had Conference USA Friday, Sun Belt Championships Friday, of course, Mountain West Championship Friday, I believe, yeah. And then and the American Athletic Championship also was played on Friday. Let's start off with the one that's going to cause a lot of chaos because that's what Keith wants, chaos.
We're going to get it.
The ACC Championship. Duke beats number 17 Virginia 27-20 in overtime. Wow.
This isn't Virginia was awful. I think it's very good that Virginia didn't win this game and go represent the ACC. And they're better off with no representation than that team because that was not a good football game last night. And I don't know what Duke came out a winner, but I don't know what they were doing to get clock management at the end of that game. They should have never even gone into overtime. Virginia didn't play well. Duke was fired up. They played very aggressively, went for like every fourth down. It felt like that they had. And congratulations to them. This isn't the ultimate chaos because if BYU would have won yesterday, then you would have had the ultimate chaos because more than one or two teams would be pissed off today. There'd be another one added. But it was a fun Saturday. I watched a lot of most of all the games. We had to pop out a little bit to go see Santa Claus, my granddaughter, but we saw most of it. And a better day of football than I would have expected when these games, too many of these games don't mean enough. But fun, good. Congratulations to Duke, and go enjoy the bowl game you go play in because you're not playing in the playoff.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Duke was calling, for playoff berth after winning the ACC championship. But they have 5 losses, and according to you, Keith, they have a less than 1% chance of being selected. I think the chances are higher than that. I mean, 1% means no chance at all in reality. But by winning their division more or less, I mean, realistically, do they really have a puncher's chance of getting into the playoffs?
No. I say no. You're not putting a 5-team loss. You're not putting a 5-loss team in there if you can avoid it. Which again may help Miami. I mean, I was going back and forth whether this game actually helped Miami yesterday with Duke winning, and I don't think it does. But because one of the chances Miami might have today is if the committee doesn't have the taste for leaving the ACC out altogether. Because I don't think you can put this team in to represent the ACC, and this is they've got to do something so that we get the best teams. If you're going to give these guys automatic bids, we got to get the best teams, and this isn't getting it done. I don't know what the answer is. I wish I did.
Wasn't the answer just go to best 12 teams according to records, and they should be tiebreakers, either strength of schedule, or maybe yet point differential, even though point differential might make things a little ugly at certain games during the year.
I don't want to really lead the little guys out. I don't want to lead the Tulanes and the James Madisons. I want to give them a fighting chance if I can, right? So to me, the best option would be, yes, expand the tournament, but let all the conference champions in. Let them all in, like they do in basketball. It's only 9. It'll be
basketball has 64 teams in March Madness. How many games can you play in football?
You can play. They could go to 24 if they wanted to. They could go to 16, give all the conference champions a berth, and still have 5 at-large bids. How many do you need? We're arguing over who's the 12th best team. You know, and if you let all these conference champions in, then pick the next best 5, I think you got a very representative field. But I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. You know what? One thing, and I heard Kirk Herbstreit say this yesterday on game day, and I had talked about it Wednesday night. So I think he must be watching my show. Mm-hmm. I doubt it. He's in an airplane somewhere. These rankings, these playoff rankings shouldn't start 5 weeks ago. Because if you didn't have these rankings and people already positioned, like Oklahoma, if you just ranked these teams for the first time after yesterday, Oklahoma would be out. They wouldn't be in. And maybe Ole Miss would be down further because they, you know.
Well, the rankings start before the season and they continue every week.
That's, you know, the AP poll is separate and much different. Well, the top of it is, and when you get down to the bottom, the AP poll is a lot different than this college football poll. It doesn't start until like November 11th or whatever the first show was. It's all for TV, right? You know, every week we're going to get these rankings, and unfortunately, you establish Oklahoma benefited because they were immediately put in that first one. They've been on a good roll, I think, and they got into the 9th or 8th spot right away, and they didn't fall off because they played weak competition the last 4 weeks and didn't lose, so you couldn't drop them. Mm-hmm. Notre Dame, Miami, BYU all should be ranked ahead of Oklahoma, at least those 3 teams, maybe Texas. But
the ranking system is flawed as well as the playoff system. I mean, look at it like this. I mean, the NFL, you can get a 8 and 9 team in the playoffs. You know, if they're confident. I mean, if the division is just bad enough. But what they get a home playoff because they're 8 and 9 if they win the division, which I think is a screwed system to work with anyway because they don't deserve that. I don't care if they won a division or not.
The teams with a bye.
They fulfill their requirement. We have a difference of opinion there, but I think in college it's a little different because you have a committee, and I think they take into consideration ratings, how charismatic a team is.
Shouldn't come into play.
There's a chance to put Texas in with Arch Manning. They're going to want to do that, whether they would or wouldn't. That's something they'd want to do if Texas was in the mix.
Shouldn't come into play, though. I mean,
it shouldn't come into play, but let's face it, it does. You talk about today with Notre Dame. There's no way Notre Dame's going to be left out of the playoff picture. I can't see that for the life of me.
If Alabama had won yesterday, there was a good chance. I'm sorry, if BYU had won yesterday, Notre Dame would have been out, most likely. But
I don't think either one of them should be out. To tell you the truth, if you want the playoffs to go like to be rated really well, you want both those teams in there because they draw a crowd. You know, they draw the attention. You know,
one of the biggest problems is, and before I even say this, let me be clear. When Miami gets left out, I'm not going to be bitching and moaning. They lost to Louisville and SMU with games they needed to win. Go win all 12 games and you don't have this argument. So, or even 11, you don't have this argument. So let me be clear on that before I go further. Second, the next thing is the committee doesn't know what they want. You can't say you want the best 12 teams, and again, I'm for letting the group of 5 have representation in the playoff. I'm all for that. But you can't go say then we want the best 12 teams because you've already said you're not going to give us the best 12 teams by taking one of the teams from the group of 5. They're rarely going to be one of the top 12 teams. Cincinnati was a few years ago, but rarely are they going to be in the top 12. So number one, you've already started out with a contradiction, right? And they don't know what they want. They say head-to-head matters until it doesn't. What does matter? Strength of schedule matters until it doesn't. It's not going to matter with James Madison. They got the 123rd or 121st ranked strength of schedule in the country. So, and the 4 teams that they're battling with, potentially Duke, Boise State, and somebody else they had up there, I can't remember who it was now, all had much higher strength of schedule. So that won't matter in this case when JMU gets in. And congratulations for them for getting in. But as you said, Brian, the system is flawed because they don't stick to any standard. We're all over the place in what matters, right? Head-to-head matter. Well, unless it happens in Labor Day weekend, I guess, right? I don't know. I
think that college football in general, they don't. It's like they don't have their stuff together. They make these propositions and set all these playoffs and set the NIL. I mean, it's like they don't have their stuff together. It's like they're thinking before they even actually have a plan to put it out there. And this is the whole problem I have with, especially like the ranking system in the beginning of the year. I think has been garbage since the dawn of time. I think they should never put one out there. I think if they let the teams battle on there, you go by the strength of schedule, and the first week you see who these teams play, and then maybe you might have better competition in the first week if you're going by that principle. Yeah. You might have teams not playing crappy teams at the beginning of the season. You might have teams going against each other that count. Big schools going against each other. That way,
they're going to get more crappy games with the way they're going because who's going to go play? Why would Texas go play Ohio State in week 1? Why would Notre Dame and Miami play? Ever, if a good loss is better than a win, ever, why are you going to go play those games? Again, I don't know. I wish I had answers. The problem is I've got more questions than I have answers, just like they do.
So the Conference USA Championship, Kennesaw State Owls beat the Jackson State.
Congratulations,
19-15.
Congratulations. 2-10 that team was last year.
Yeah.
Only a couple years in Division I. Good for them.
Shout out to Kennesaw. Sun Belt Championship, Troy 14, James Madison 31, as we said, number 25, James Madison, as a matter of fact. The Mountain West Championship was Boise State 38, UNLV 21. What happened to UNLV?
I'll tell you what, they can't play Boise State. That's for sure. They got hammered twice by
yeah, they had when I looked at the score the first time, I was like, wow.
They did not. I watched that whole game. I bet the over in that game and lost by half a point. But Boise just wanted this game more. That was very obvious. That game mattered. I said, and again, when I say that these games don't matter, a lot of them matter to the kids. The championships do matter. To Boise State, to Indiana yesterday, most likely. And when I say they don't matter in the grand scheme of national championships, right? But they're important to fans. They're important to players. And you can see it in Boise State. This team was fired up to win this game. And they had a home field advantage when you're playing in that blue. Apparently, UNLV has a problem with the color blue. That's all I can think of.
UNLV will turn it to the Raiders. In the American Athletic Championship, number 22 Tulane 34, number 24 North Texas 21. That was another. The Tulane came out and played in that game too. MAC Championship, go Western Michigan Broncos. They won 23 to Miami of Ohio's 13. And of course, the Big 12 Championship, number 4 Texas Tech 34. Number 11, BYU 7. I think Texas Tech has definitely punched their ticket. Definitely.
Keith has been high on Texas Tech, I believe, for a while.
Texas Tech, lightly. Their defense is outstanding, man. I'll tell you. And they're, one of the other podcasters out there who follows my show gets on me because I'll always talk about the $55 million they spent on their defensive line. And he says, everybody's spending money. They spent their money well, right? Mm-hmm. So, They've done well, and they're well coached. And this is a fun team to watch play too. I'll tell you right now. Don't take them lightly. They'll probably be in the top 4. I'm guessing they'll get a bye.
And BYU opened the door for one of the marquee schools to get into the playoffs. They were beginning to be a pain in the butt because had they won yesterday, how would you keep BYU out? But now that they lost, and even in the let's disregard the manner they lost. Any type of loss, basically knocks them out.
You're right, Jack. There'll be some people today, though, that will say, again, because they had to play that extra game. If they didn't play this game, then they probably would have been in. Well, actually, they probably would have been the first 2 out. But playing this game, and they only lost. They had 2 losses this year, both to the number 3, same team, the number 3 team probably in the country when we're all said and done. But they were bad losses. They got beat up badly both times. So.
Yeah, Texas Tech to me reminds me of the Houston Texans. As a matter of fact, of the NFL, the defenses is winning them games too. It's the other thing too. They put them in a position to win games.
They do.
In the SEC championship, number 3 Georgia 28 and number 9 Alabama 7. I didn't really give Alabama a chance to win this game.
Pass rush. So many pressures on Alabama that game. Alabama constantly under pressure on offense, could never get anything going.
Another thing.
When it looked like they were going to get a touchdown late in the game to give them a faint hope when they were down 28-7. The ball is tipped ever so slightly, but should have gotten caught in the end zone by Alabama's, best receiver.
This is another thing that, the committee, I talked about a bunch of things. They don't know what they like. I left out eye tests. They love to say eye tests, right? Well, did Alabama pass the eye test yesterday in any way, shape, or form? No. They should not be in. 80 yards of offense in 3 quarters. I'm sorry. No. They have to be out. They won't be. I think they'll get a makeup.
What about Coach DeBoer at Alabama now? I mean, what's going to come down if they're not selected into the playoffs and the season ends the way it did? Is he going to be under a certain amount of heat?
He won't lose his job this year, but he better be in the playoff next year.
Next year, yeah, he definitely has.
Beating Georgia earlier this year saves a little bit. It keeps the heat off him a little bit. But yeah, the short leash is going to be very short, right? So.
And then, of course, the Big Ten championship, number 2 Indiana 13, number 1 Ohio State 10. This game was just like the most even game you possibly can. And let me tell you, the IU defense came up big in a great many drives of OSU, especially down there in the red zone. I can't believe how good their defense stepped up when they were when Ohio State got down there to the red zone. It's like they planned to play a bend, don't break defense, but they definitely stopped Ohio State a lot of times down there in the red zone and then they had 5 sacks on saying. I mean, that defense was all over the place.
Great defense. A lot of chatter, that all this, this Indiana could not match the physicality and of Ohio State. I've been telling people they're not just better at quarterback. They're better in the trenches. They're better everywhere than they were last year, and they were good last year. But they did get trounced by Ohio State last year. They're a different football team, and their quarterback showed some moxie yesterday. Played an awful first quarter. Took a hell of a lick in that first quarter too, and played good football, good enough to get the win here in an ugly fashion, but doesn't matter. They'll be the number 1 ranked team going in next week.
Yeah, but keep this in mind. Ohio State was coming off that very emotional win over Michigan that got all their attention. If Michigan didn't exist and that game wasn't played against Michigan, I kind of feel Ohio State having all their energy going into this game, it would have made a difference.
If they were to play again, and they might play again, I would say Ohio State will still be favored to win because you're right. They didn't have as much motivation to win yesterday.
It's hard to regroup after a game against Michigan. You're only human.
Indiana hadn't beaten Ohio State in 30 years and hadn't won a Big Ten title since the 60s.
45.
Well, 45. I think they might have tied for one like in 67 or something. An outright win, those like 1945.
And Mendoza, the quarterback, Indiana, did he wrap up the Heisman?
I think he did.
Mm-hmm.
I think he did. Again, it's weird. You look at what everybody seems that ranks them out seems to go to the betting site. So where the betting money is, I don't think is really going to be realistic of what the votes.
When you project Mendoza to go in the NFL draft?
He's going to go in the top 5. I don't think he should. I mean, again, quarterbacks overrated. He's probably going to be a top 5 pick.
Desperate NFL teams looking for quarterbacks.
Yeah, he's the best quarterback coming out, in my mind. But again, I wouldn't be picking him in the top 10. But again, you know my feelings on this topic. So,
yeah. So that pretty much wraps it up for all the conference championships this weekend. Next week, of course, it's the Army-Navy game. Go Navy, be Army. I just had to throw that one in there.
Does anyone care about the Army-Navy game anymore the way they used to? I mean, with the college playoffs,
it's
on the horizon.
They have a standalone stage next week, which I hope they continue to do with all this other nonsense going on. They need to continue to give this game its singular stage. And I think there is. I think this is a highly rated event for CBS and has been and will be. Even years these two teams go in there with 3 wins between them. People care about the game because you're watching something that's true amateurism. We don't see it anywhere else in college sports anymore. This game, that's it. And I think there's a lot of interest in it.
Yeah. I've always watched it even before I was in the Navy. I was watching the Army-Navy game. So it's a tradition. A lot of families have. They sit there and they watch that game. It'll be a fun game, though. I mean, it's kind of like the Big Ten championship. Doesn't make a difference what their records are.
Yeah,
it's just.
Yeah. I actually went years ago. I went to Philadelphia to an Army-Navy game in the late 1970s, and I went onto the field after the game was over. And I remember one of the players, giving me a shoulder pad to take. Not the whole pad, the insert over there. So it was kind of cool, the tradition Army and Navy, but I'm not sure what it used to be.
Well, it's not what it was in the 40s. I mean, but
yeah. Well, we were talking about Harvard and Yale, who played earlier this year. Yeah. I watched part of the game. The stands are partly empty. I'm sure for the alumni and the students there, it's a big deal. But I think with all the games going on, and I think even now, what I mentioned a minute ago, the focus on the college playoffs, I think Army-Navy reminds me now of the week before the Super Bowl when they used to have, the Pro Bowl. People watched, they were entertained, but it wasn't a big deal.
I don't feel, I feel that's doing that game disservice myself, Jack. I really do. I think this game still means something to a lot of people, whether alumni or people that their parents served in the military, as Brian said. I think it means something. Now, again, the NCAA could screw this up because now they play in the same conference, just have them play sometime in, October mixed in with everybody else. Then it becomes just another game. But they still give it that stage, and as long as they do, I think it will be relevant.
Yeah,
more than the Pro Bowl.
Really, to take an effect, the traditional games really don't mean anything in this day and age. I'm surprised that the Lions still play on Thanksgiving. That's how much tradition I think is starting to go out the window. I think that's going to change too pretty soon.
I wouldn't doubt it. Teams the NFL teams have played for years about Dallas and Detroit having that supposed advantage, right, of being home for the holiday and blah, 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 blah.
It used to be brutal watching the Lions on Thanksgiving. I hated it. I mean, they were so bad. I hated those games.
Well, I mean, they weren't bad. Well, you might have remembered the 1930 games.
Yes, they were bad.
1930 and 40 games there, Jack, when they did
it. Most of the years. I know with Barry Sanders, they had a couple of good years, but they weren't. It wasn't too entertaining.
Yeah, early on. I mean, they still have, as good as their team is, they've still lost 2 of the last three Thanksgiving games. So I mean.
But the matchups have been good. The Lions against the Packers, it's your marquee matchup.
I feel like when
Chicago between that.
I feel like I was on as a kid. Detroit would almost every year get the 12:30 slot, right? Not the 4:30 slot.
No, they always got the 12:30.
Yeah.
The Lions were always the first game, the Cowboys, the middle game, and in the past there wasn't a third game, but now of course they added in.
Yeah, Dallas, because they have to be America's team. They have to have a slot too. Oh, how bad the Lions gotta have a special day. Dallas has got to have one too now. So
well, I think the NFL is smart. They don't just let these teams play any game because the Cowboys
Christmas
played the
Day.
Chiefs, and everyone knew that was going to be a marquee game in the beginning of the year because it's the Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce.
I think Dallas playing Christmas Day since they're so, everybody wants to see them so much. Anyway, speaking of that, we can transition to the NFL. And Thursday, we had the Detroit Lions playing the Dallas Cowboys at Ford Field, and Detroit was victorious in that, thank God. And their playoff hopes are still. Do you think that Dallas still has a hope to get in the playoffs, though? I mean, they have a really soft schedule coming up.
I mean, anything's possible, but the answer is no. I mean, just look at the standings, and I'm not even saying it off the top of my head, which I know. I mean, their best chance of getting in realistically is winning their division. And what are they behind the Eagles? They're 6-1. Even if the Eagles lose today, they've got to make up 2 games.
Yeah.
They've got to make up 2 games with 4 to play. It's possible, but that gives them basically their only hope if the Eagles lose at, they're playing the LA Chargers on the road. It's a long shot. And people are saying if the Cowboys run the table and they win their last 4, well, they're 6-1. Since when are they going to be so good that they're going to run the table? And I don't care who they're playing, weakness of schedule or whatever.
Even if they're reasonable, they got to have the Eagles go 500, which they got to split the rest of their games, and they do have a tougher schedule, but that's not a given either. So,
yeah, they have hope. It's not.
They're not getting wild card. There are too many good teams going for the wild card spot. You mentioned your Lions who in 3rd place. The Bears or the Packers. One of them is going to be in the wild card spot. In addition to the Lions competing for it, then you got the winner of the division in the West between the Rams, Seahawks, and 49ers. 2 more going to be competing. It's
too many teams.
A long haul. I mean, Dallas, realistically, they have to hope Philadelphia loses today to give them a semblance of hope.
Well, on the flip side of that, there was 3 teams that had, they were outside looking in. And one of those teams was the Carolina Panthers. Now, they jumped over Dallas because Dallas lost, and they beat Dallas earlier in the season. What do you think the chances are Carolina making it into the playoffs?
Well, not as a wild card. They're not making it as a wild card. Their only hope is to win the division outright. They play the Buccaneers twice more. Maybe, maybe the Buccaneers lose today, and increases their chances. But winning the division is their clearest path, not as a wild card.
Yeah. The word that Keith does not like, parity.
Parity. I don't really see parity though. Where am I seeing parity? I mean, I don't. If parity would be a bunch of 6-1 teams, right? I don't see a lot of that. The Patriots are 11-2, and who else? We got a bunch of 9-win teams. I don't see parity. You got teams that are winning 2 games, 1 game. That's not parity.
Yeah, there's a lot of parity with teams vying for playoff position.
Well, yeah, but true parity is the league wants everybody to be, 8-1, and that sucks.
I don't know about 8-1, but at the same time, I don't think that. I think parity. Most people are understanding. Well, the parity that I think that people are looking at is that a team should go into another team's stadium, and if they're the better team, they should win. Kind of like the Rams going to Carolina, they should have beat the crap out of Carolina based on statistics. But it didn't happen that way. That's why we have the saying any given Sunday. So,
well, any given Sunday would be the Buccaneers playing at New Orleans today. I mean, the Buccaneers obviously can't afford a slip up on a game like this because it would open the door to the Panthers. But they do play the Panthers twice more. Mm-hmm. And if they're the better team, which I think they are, they should take care of business.
Take care of business. That's what you got to do. Whatever, all the arguments that we have in sports could easily be solved if everybody just took care of their business, but they don't. And then we have arguments.
And then you have these teams that have lost so many tight games that you think they could have won, and you think the law of averages are they're going to start winning one or two. But I think now it works in reverse. They don't even come close to winning. Like, look at the Giants, who were my upset special over the Patriots. I mean, they were awful.
I'll be back where? Where am I going?
Right.
Did I go somewhere? Where did I go?
No, I don't know. Be back on a losing. I don't understand it.
I've been very realistic about my team this year.
So let's get into those games. There's a lot of games that are starting off this weekend that are division competition. And one of the first ones is Pittsburgh at Baltimore. Fight for number one spot, if you can call it that. And Pittsburgh's going into Baltimore. The Ravens are a 6-point favorite, but let me tell you something. Pittsburgh also got Adam Thielen. And I think that is more that makes more for Pittsburgh than people realize. They actually have an actual number 2 receiver. Now, he might not be, the greatest number 2 receiver, but he's definitely better than anything they have as a number 2 receiver now.
I hate not to throw a wet blanket on this, but I have never seen in a week with all the news that we have in college and pro football and Don Mattingly with a chance to get in Hall of Fame. I've never heard so much talk about Adam Thielen in all my life this week.
Rodgers has been. Rodgers is complaining, Keith Bryan, about the receivers who've been with them since training camp not running routes the correct way. So is Thielen going to come in and run the routes the way Rodgers wants him to all of a sudden? But
he's
you
most capable of doing it.
You have 2 injured quarterbacks. Rodgers supposedly his non-throwing hand is really banged up badly, which has more of an effect than people think because you have to take the snap from center. And if it pains you when you get the snap, the pain doesn't go away for a couple of seconds. It could throw your rhythm off by a lot. And Lamar Jackson, he's not the same guy. I got to believe it's injuries with Lamar Jackson. He's all of a sudden not growing old because he's not old. And he hasn't been the same play. I believe he's really more hurt than people are led to believe. But he's good enough where he can take the field, and he's still the Ravens' best option. But he's not the Lamar Jackson MVP who he's known.
No. Listen, again, but one more thing with you. If Adam Thielen, does anybody really think Adam Thielen is going to be the difference in this division race? No. Pittsburgh's not winning it, and he's not going to have any effect. None.
Well, with DK Metcalf and Thielen, gives Rodgers a couple of targets. But with Pittsburgh, it's been their defense that's never fully shown up this year. And now there's the Mike Tomlin drama, whether the Steelers are going to pick up the option for the second year, because if they don't, he's under contract next year for 1 year. And I'm not against that. I hate the mentality of people who think a coach is a lame duck because he has 1 year left on his contract. That's pure foolishness that the media put out that narrative and everyone just buys into it. He's absolutely – no one is a lame duck coach when they have a year left on the contract. Because if you're an owner, you would be an absolute fool if you have any doubt to extend the guy and then have to pay him when you let him go.
I mean, well, I kind of disagree a little bit with Keith about saying that Adam Thielen's not going to make a difference on that team. I'm not saying they're going to go to the Super Bowl. I'm not even saying they're going to win the first round of the playoffs. But during the regular season, when you don't have any legitimate second receiver on that team at all, you keep fishing through a whole bunch of them, and you got somebody that can settle that. He's a veteran. He can run his route still. He was playing really well with the Panthers before the Panthers let him go to Minnesota. That's because the Panthers had a whole bunch of young talent on their team that they needed to get out there, which was good for them. So, I mean, this is a team full of old folks, basically. and you might as well just continue the parody on that front.
Who had Adam Thielen as a hot take in Week 14 on their bingo card? Because I didn't.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you guys this: what would you put the odds on the Tomlin-Rodgers combo coming back next year?
0.
I mean, it's highly doubtful. Like, I mean, maybe Tomlin. You never know with Rodgers. So let's see how the year plays out. But it just seems like the Steelers are hanging on. They seem to have this division locked up a couple of weeks ago. Then they get upset by the Bengals, and it opened the door, for the Ravens, who actually were 1-5. That's unheard of. A team that lost 5 games in a row is now storming back, and now technically the Ravens in first place.
And the Bengals only 2 games back.
And the Bengals, if they win today, a very tough game playing at Buffalo, they're going to be 1 game behind either the Steelers or the Ravens, and they will, have their sights set on the leader. And the Bengals have been known to make these late rushes, so they were left for dead. And look what could happen.
Well, Cincinnati has beaten both of those teams without Burrow. Once without Burrow. So
that's a good call, right?
That's the beauty of the NFL. Unlike college, if this was college, those teams wouldn't have a prayer going to the playoffs. But in the NFL, you can have a division winner who might wind up with a 9-8 record there, maybe 8-9 even.
Because that's what Metcalf does, Carlos. You understand Metcalf's career. When he came out and came into the NFL, I thought he was the next Calvin Johnson because he had the speed, and he had the height, and he had the hands. And you just got to watch it. He's one of those guys, if you don't get him involved in the game early enough, he fades. He will not be part of anything. He won't block. He won't catch a ball. It's like, dude, what happened? And if you get him involved early in the game, he's lights out because you got him involved in the game. And that's why I've not liked Metcalf over the last few years because he's lazy to me. He doesn't, I don't know, lazy is the word for it. He's not in tune with the game when he should be. Right. Yeah, he's not engaged. Yeah. And I don't like that when that happens. So speaking of this game,
10-cent head. That's what he's got.
Mm-hmm. In this game, Pittsburgh versus Baltimore, who you got there, Jack?
I like the Ravens. I'm waiting for them to get it together, this year. The only way the Ravens are a serious threat to go to the Super Bowl is if Lamar Jackson gets healthy and regains his form. I mean, that's the only way. But the Steelers flat out aren't good. We've been waiting for the defense to show up. We've held TJ Watt accountable, even though he's had a couple of good games for what he's getting paid, and he's supposed to be a mega star. Him and Myles Garrett were neck and neck. Who was the best, defensive end? And now Myles Garrett is clearly ahead. So what's happened with TJ Watt? I mean, is it a case, and I'm not saying this is it, where a guy gets his money and he kind of takes his foot slightly off the accelerator? I wouldn't think TJ Watt.
Myles Garrett got his money last year too, and
but Myles Garrett is playing like he loves the game. I mean, TJ Watt, I don't know what's going through his head. Maybe he's hurt partly, in fairness to him.
He's had some injuries, but he doesn't seem like a guy to just mail it in once he gets his money.
Doesn't seem that way because you're thinking of J.J. Watt, his brother, who was a fierce competitor.
He needs some help around him, too.
I don't think Jay is mailing it in at all. I don't think so. But the bottom line is, whatever the reason, he's not performing.
Right.
He's not performing up to his standards. He's just playing like another guy who's maybe a little better than average.
I think it's part of it's the rest of the talent around him, and teams can take him out of the game because there's nobody to pick up the slack. Garrett's got some good players around him, too. Garrett's a better player at this point, as you said.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a close game. The Ravens win something like 21-19.
I like the Ravens as well. I'm waiting for the Ravens, and health-wise, they probably can't do it. I don't think this team has a chance to compete with Lamar Jackson sitting back in a pocket throwing passes. If he can't be Lamar Jackson, I don't think this team has any chance.
Lamar Jackson's an underrated pocket passer. The problem is he hasn't taken off and run, the way he has in the past. He's not the same threat. If he's not a threat to take off and run, the Raven offense stalls.
I'm not knocking his pocket passing. I'm knocking the fact, or I'm saying that taking that possibility away, it makes it easier to game plan for him, right? So.
Yeah.
Well, I'm taking it. I'm going to ride with my Thielen. I'm riding with Thielen. I'm just going to go with Pittsburgh until Thielen shows me he can't do it.
I didn't know Thielen was that big of a difference maker. I mean,
when Thielen catches one pass for 6 yards, I hope we're talking about him all next week too.
Yeah, you're right. That's going to throw you to death, Keith.
If not, I won't be on any of the shows. If he has a big day, I'll see you guys in a couple of weeks.
I don't think you'll have a big day, but whatever. All right. Next game. Okay, I got to throw in a couple of crappy games in here also. Seattle is going to Atlanta. Is anybody really giving Atlanta any chance in this game?
I don't give No.
I watched the full Falcon game last week from beginning to end because they played the Jets.
Oh, that was painful.
And it was a pitiful how they won special teams. The Falcons lost the game on special teams. They botch a punt, and then the Jets get the ball on the Falcon 2-yard line, and Tyrod Taylor hands it off, and they get a touchdown, and people are thinking, the Jets scored on a possession, which technically they did. There were other foul-ups on special teams. There were so many drop passes by their receivers. Kyle Pitts is dropping a pass, a couple of the wideouts.
That's not unusual.
I mean, they were just bad. Just bad, the Falcons. Not that the Jets were much better. Someone had to win the game, and the Jets fortunately won it. But maybe they rebound. They were at home, and Raheem Morris is under a lot of pressure here in Atlanta, which he should be. And Atlanta's, they're not in the mix anymore.
I think I'm
surprised.
The only way they ran
the
table, they're not catching the Panthers and Buccaneers, because the Panthers and Buccaneers play one another twice, meaning even if they go 1-1, they create more separation. So there's no late rush if the Falcons run the table.
The only mystery is whether Raheem Morris makes it through week 17. That's about the only thing to watch for in Atlanta now. He's gone.
Firing him wouldn't make any sense at this point of the year. Let him play the year out and see what transpires.
Well, yeah, they keep going through these games and he loses and they ain't firing. They might as well let him ride out the rest of the season. Then they can fire him in. I mean,
well, then they can take him out quarterback. Expected him to say.
Despite North Carolina, there's still whispers that they should have hired Belichick, who seemed to be in line for the Falcon job at one point. And then they went to Raheem Morris. Because supposedly, Robert Kraft is buddies with, the Falcon owner. And they had a discussion, and Kraft gave his opinion on, his relationship with Belichick.
Well, they would have had a better chance to win with Bill Belichick on the sideline than Raheem Morris. That's all I'll say. You can't judge what, and people will do this. Good thing they didn't hire Bill Belichick. Look at that mess in North Carolina. You can't say it would be the same situation, right? Although,
I mean, either way, he could have came to Atlanta and messed that situation up. You don't know until he's actually the coach.
Right.
So
it couldn't have been any, but I agree with you.
It couldn't have been any worse. Right. Yeah. It couldn't have been worse. Right. This is true. That is true to the point. Another great game that we're going to be able to see today. The Tennessee Titans at the Cleveland Browns. Shedeur Sanders gets the start again. Who you got there, Jack?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a close game, but I like Cleveland. Of course, the two stories, Myles Garrett going after the sack record, the quarterback situation. I find it extremely intriguing that the rebirth of Deshaun Watson. He's going to be back next year on the Cleveland roster. They announced he's going to be back because logically his contract is too big. They can't trade him. They can't take the cap and releasing him. You want to know something? He's been reportedly a great influence. He's been, great team player, tries to help the young quarterbacks, and they seem to like him there. And if Deshaun Watson can regain, a semblance of what he was, their quarterback situation is solved, at least for next year. Because let's remember, Deshaun Watson was one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL at his best.
Way.
But let's see. But I wonder whether Deshaun Watson is going to see the field for one game this year. That's what's making it intriguing. And of course, we're following Shedeur Sanders. If Shedeur Sanders doesn't play a good game against the Tennessee defense, I could see them going to Dylan Gabriel next week.
It won't be Deshaun Watson. I'm not going to get into Deshaun.
I mean, Deshaun Watson has been put on the 21-day, list. So
Keith is a hater because of Deshaun Watson's transgressions. But I could tell you, Keith, there are a number of guys who are in the sports media got coaching positions that had transgressions. The Browns are bringing Deshaun Watson back next year. They announced it, that he's going to be on their roster. I'm not speculating. I'm just reporting what they said.
Why do we have to whitewash what Deshaun Watson is? He's a person with zero character and a disgusting human being who I wouldn't have near my
life. His acts were highly improper. I agree with you. But I can point, and I don't want to do it because I don't want to trash a number of other players who committed, acts you could label as disgusting as well, but they've been allowed to be given second chances, even as coaches and broadcasters.
Don't let the air out of footballs, though. That's all I'll tell you. Don't let the air out of footballs, because
okay,
horrible human being.
Yeah. Look, the NFL's about winning, Keith. Come on, if he could help Cleveland got him when they knew what he did. And they gave him the money because they thought he was elite.
A transgression is me rolling through a stop sign. That's a transgression, not what he did. Anyway, back to football. How many sacks does Myles Garrett need to get the record? Do we know off the end?
He's got 19 right now. He needs 4. All right. 4.
This is a perfect team because Ward holds onto the ball too long still, and he might get them today. Browns win this game, and Myles Garrett has a big day, I think.
Mm-hmm. I think he's going to continue to have those big days in the next few games.
The best play in the NFL, position for position, is Myles Garrett. Position for position.
You made up for your transgression comment now. That's
right. I mean, that's like pound for pound in boxing. He's the best player in the NFL. And what makes it remarkable, Myles Garrett's year, guys, he's doing it with a team that's got no hope of making the playoffs, a losing team where certain players, and he has a big contract, certain players would shut down a little. He hasn't shut down. He's played it hard week in, week out.
How does Danny manage to put those two things together?
Right, he's right, Danny. He's right. The Patriots act with cheating, this and that. You condone that, Keith. You condoned it, and you took credit when they win. But meanwhile, you're putting down, other things.
Oh, my God.
If you ain't cheating, you're not trying. Keith goes by that motto with the Patriots. I like that about it. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
We just did it better than anybody else. That's all.
Yeah.
So let me ask a question. I don't mean to really stay on Cleveland this long either, but if Myles Garrett goes nuts, to put it mildly, for the next 4 or 5 games that they have, and he just destroys that sack record, should he be the MVP?
No, absolutely not. Not a chance. Not a chance. If it was the best player award, yes, absolutely. Yeah. But how valuable is he to Cleveland? Anyone? It's got to be a team that at the very least contends for a playoff position. Let's say they don't make it, but they're in contention until the last week of the season. Okay, but no way. No way at all.
I find myself in the awkward position of agreeing with Jack on this topic.
It's most valuable player. They could lose with or without him.
They do have a Defensive Player of the Year award, right? I mean, he's going to.
Yeah. He should get that, absolutely.
Oh, he'll definitely get that.
MVP has got to be. You have to at least be, as Jack said, a contender of some sort.
Contender, at least. Yeah.
Well, you never know. It's everybody's pretty close in that division. Cleveland could take a Shador rocket and go up to the top. And I'm picking Cleveland to win this game. I'm getting off this subject.
I got Cleveland.
Cleveland somehow runs the table, and they lose out by one game at the end. But when the final week of the season, they're somehow mathematically alive. Then, of course, we revisit Myles Garrett for MVP. But that's not going to happen.
Cleveland and Adam Thielen. Now, who nobody talked this much about these two things?
Adam Thielen.
Yeah. Right.
Wait. What happens if Adam Thielen is sensational and the Steelers, carries him to the playoffs? I mean, should he be an MVP?
It's like Beetlejuice. I shouldn't even bring up this.
No, Danny. A-Rod also was in the last place team, and he got an MVP. And neither Trout or A-Rod should have gotten MVPs because they won last place teams. That's the total farce.
Agreed.
Check put it up.
I'm trying. The Browns are news.
That's all right, because the next one we won't have to. You will not hear Cleveland in this next sentence. Okay,
We're getting heckled. We're getting heckled in the comments here.
No. I just want to say Shador Sanders, Deshaun Watson, and Myles Garrett. They have three intriguing stories. How many teams have three stories like that? Too. No one.
Let me see if I can shut them off here. Hold on a second.
Yeah, I'm off. Let's move on.
Really?
So
let's move on to another team that probably shouldn't be mentioned too much either. Two teams, actually. The Miami Dolphins are going to play the Jets. Miami's favored by 2.5. Who you got, Jack?
It reminds me a little of the movie Rocky, the one that Mr. T was in with Clubber Lang. And they asked him, can you imagine they asked Mike Grable, are you concerned with the Dolphins playing the Jets? And what Clubber Lang said about Apollo Creed training Rocky, one has been, like training another. That's basically what it is. Look, the Dolphins have a little flame going. They've won 3 in a row. And you know what they've done? They've quieted the fire Mike McDaniel's talk. Now, McDaniels is suddenly, at least for now, off the hot seat. And if they win today 4 in a row, he's not on the hot seat anymore because the owner, Steve Rush, reportedly likes him, wants a reason to keep him. And the Dolphins are playing hard, give them their due. And in fairness to Aaron Glenn, the Jets have been playing hard as well. Their defense has been decent throughout the year on balance. But Tyrod Taylor, I mean, they have Breece Hall. If the Dolphins stop Breece Hall, it could contain them, which I think they should be able to do. That's going to be their game plan. What wideouts do they have? Adonai Mitchell, the reject from Indianapolis, who still might be a good number 2 receiver when Garrett Wilson comes back. I mean, I like the Dolphins in this game. It's winnable for the Jets. The Jets won last week as the Falcons screwed up on special teams and there were numbered drop passes. I have to trust that the Dolphins, will be better in those departments and they're going to be able to win a close game. Something like 21-17.
Jack is right again. McDaniel's done a good job of getting himself off the hot seat. I've been very harsh on this guy for a couple of years, and he's done a good job here. They're going to win their 4th in a row here, I think. They run the ball really well. Etienne's one of the top backs in the league, and I think they've really committed to the run a lot more, and Tua's played better. I think Miami wins this game. I think Miami finishes above 500 before the year's over.
Of all when Tua came out of Alabama, did you think he would be a lot better than he's turned out to be? Because I'm not sure what to make out of him. Where does he rate amongst the quarterbacks? About the 15th best, 17th best in the league? I mean, he's okay. Tua's okay. But you need more than okay to ultimately go to a Super Bowl.
I wasn't that high on him coming out of college, quite frankly.
No kidding.
I'm not surprised that he's in the middle of the pack at best, right? At best.
Yeah, he is hilarious. He ain't
hilarious,
but he is hilarious, though. Yeah, I think he needs to be drug tested intermittently too.
But you gotta love a guy who drives by the Buffalo Bills fans after the Dolphins beat them to just tease the fans and then take off. You gotta like that.
I think he stopped by for a quick pop, is what I think. But
yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, you know what? I'm going with the Jets in this game. I just don't. Miami can't play in any cold weather in the first place. I know you can say that when they play Buffalo or they play New England or something like that because those teams are good. Not the Jets are getting there. They're getting to that point. It's going to take a little while, but and some draft picks. But I got the Jets in this one. I just think they can win this game. I didn't think they're going to beat Atlanta, but they beat Atlanta. So, okay. Next game is the Saints at the Buccaneers. Who you got, Jack? You're on mute, Jack.
Good job.
I'm waiting for the Buccaneers to put it together finally. In the beginning of the year, they, got off to a great start, but they won a lot of close games. Look out, I've said it all along. Look out for the Buccaneers. I picked them to go to the Super Bowl. I'm sticking with it. I know they struggled. They lost 3 in a row, and they barely got by last week, winning their game against Arizona by 3 points. And now they have the Saints. I look for them to finally show that they're back in form and start getting better and better as the weeks, go by. Will they lose? I could see them losing maybe one more regular season game and then being primed for the playoffs. And that regular season game won't be to the Saints. Buccaneers should win something like 30-7 the way I see it. The Saints are in a rebuild, which they have to be in a rebuild. And the Saints have to think, Mac used to hit the mute button on me, but I used to hit the mute button on Mac, but I wouldn't announce it either. But we had a lot of fun, Mac and myself. Okay. But the Saints, do they want to keep Taysom Hill, Alvin Kamara, those guys? Is it a new age in New Orleans? Because clearly they're one of the few teams that are in a complete rebuild. They're not rebooting, they're rebuilding. Buccaneers 30-7 if you want to score.
Yeah, Bucks.
I'm missing too, Paul.
Bucks got back on the winning track, even though it was a little ugly last week, and they need to win these. They have to win these games with the Panthers chasing them. They can't throw one away, punt one against the Saints. I don't see that happening. I think this is an easy victory for the Saints today, and.
For the Buccaneers, you mean? Easy victory.
Buccaneers win easily today. And Baker Mayfield, I think, starts to get it back in gear. He's getting healthier, I think, and that'll help this team a lot.
Ryan mentioned MVP. He mentioned MVP. Early in the year, Baker Mayfield was prominent in the discussion. Can he get back into the discussion?
Not yet. Can he? He can if he plays well the next 5 games, but right now he's not in this discussion. He was.
All right. We're going to Indianapolis division. This is a division battle in itself right here. Indianapolis Colts going to Jacksonville to play the Jaguars. Indianapolis is favored by 1.5. Who you got there, Jack?
Yeah, Brian, if Jacksonville wins today, you and I, who have the same take on them, have had the same take, are going to have to start changing what we say about them being dysfunctional. They'll no longer be dysfunctional if they win today, okay? Let's not look at them being inconsistent. Obviously, the division title is pretty much on the line today. Indianapolis has lost their last 2 games. Jonathan Taylor's cooled off a little bit. Daniel Jones supposedly is playing while he's hurt. Sauce Gardner's out for Indianapolis today. That might make a difference. But I'm going to go with Indianapolis to go into Jacksonville and win and recapture their form because the 2 games Indianapolis lost, they were very competitive. Those were winnable games. It's not like they're falling apart. But this division that Indianapolis seemed to have locked up early in the year, all of a sudden they're in second place. And things are only going to get worse because you don't only have Jacksonville in that division who'll be ahead of you. You have Houston. So at the end of the day, they could be in 3rd place and in actual danger not making the playoffs. But I looked in Indianapolis to kind of rebound and win like a 28-23 game. And I look for Daniel Jones to play well today, actually, to play well in this game.
It's funny. I've been in the same camp as you guys with Jacksonville. I seem to pick against them every week, and they seem to beat me every week. They did lose at home to a good Seattle team a few weeks ago, which was their last loss. They've won 3 in a row. playing good football. Trevor Lawrence still hasn't proven to me that he's,
They did lose to Houston, though.
yeah. I think Houston's a team to watch out for in this division, if anybody. That defense is just playing tremendous. But in this game, I do like Daniel Jones to bounce back. I think Jonathan Taylor has a big game today, and Jacksonville cannot keep up with what the Colts do. I think they win this game by 10.
I'm with you, Keith. I still don't believe in Jacksonville. I don't care how many times I pick against them. I still don't believe in them. I just the quarterback position right now, it's so shaky right now. Lawrence will play good some games, and some games he'll just like, dude, why did you even make that throw? I mean, this is your what third year in the league, and you're making these crazy throws. Come on, man. And I can't believe in Jacksonville right now. I mean, the defense is the ones. Actually, their defense has been playing pretty well. Give it to him on that one.
What does Travis Hunter do back?
Not until next year.
Yeah,
Is he really out for the whole year? No hope of him coming back?
I think they I think they put him in the IR where he can't return. I think.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I don't think he's gonna have a chance to come back. But yeah, I'm going with the Colts in this one too. I think the Colts are better apt at this point. Washington.
I got to pop.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yep,
Okay.
Keith. Do your thing, man.
Tomorrow morning, Keith.
Very spirited hour. Thanks for waking me up for my show, Jack. See you guys, Jack. I'll see you tomorrow morning. Have a good week, guys.
Yeah, 8 a.m.
Keith.
Eastern time, weekend playbook. Keith will have more of a chance to put me in my place during our show tomorrow morning.
All right, Jack. So, Jack, we got a few games left here.
Well, you said Washington and Minnesota.
Yeah.
That game's interesting in the sense, I mean, both teams are out of it. Big disappointment for both teams this year. More so, I think, for Washington, it was a bigger disappointment. They made some off-season moves. Obviously, last year, the best thing and the worst thing happened to the Commander team. They took a leap up too quick. So expectations were much greater than they should have been because they came one game away from winning the Super Bowl. And once you're coming that close, I mean, anything short of the Super Bowl is considered a disappointment for the following year. And they weren't really as good as made out to be. But Jaden Daniels had, a great year as a rookie. Carried the team. They made the big plays. This year, their defense has been awful. The Commanders, but last week Dan Quinn took over, play calling on defense. And they played a decent game against the Broncos. Had Mariota made a 2-point conversion in overtime, Commanders would have scored a massive victory over the Broncos. And with the Vikings, it's the quarterback situation. Wow, with J.J. McCarthy. Now, I don't want to say it's becoming apparent he's not their quarterback of the future, but two things. He's been injury prone. And even though it's not the player's fault, the bottom line is if he can't see the field, he's not doing any good, And when he has seen the field, he hasn't been that good. How long can you wait on a guy? This is the modern NFL. You can't wait for a guy 4 or 5 years to develop, because you'll have a couple of losing seasons in the meantime, and he might not develop. You're taking a chance on his development. This is one of these games that there's not much at stake for either team, but they do want to win both. And it's at Minnesota. I see the Commanders winning a 20-16 type game.
Yeah, I'm with you on the Commanders winning that game too. Jaden Daniels will be back. Even a rusty Jaden Daniels, I think, can beat this Minnesota defense. With the quarterback situation in Minnesota, they go the rest of the season with JJ at quarterback. That's fine. But then you got next season. What are you going to do? Go get another quarterback in the draft?
Well, they will get another quarterback.
They're shooting themselves in the foot with the quarterback. I know,
but I'll give you a perfect scenario, Neely. If they want to they're going to bring in a veteran. I don't think they're giving up on J.J. McCarthy. I could see them bringing in someone like a Jameis Winston, who's maybe capable of being successful still, okay? And it's kind of like what the Colts did with Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson. kind of there'll be some type of competition, and then Kevin O'Connell will decide by the beginning of the season who's the guy who gives us the best chance of winning. I don't think they're going to go with J.J. McCarthy over any other quarterback on the roster unless he gives them the best chance of winning. I hope they don't go back to Kirk Cousins, the Vikings. I really don't, because I saw him play against the Jets last week, and he can be effective still to a point, you know. I didn't even actually put the blame on him, the Falcons losing to the Jets, because he made a few good throws where balls were dropped, in fairness to him. You're wasting your time with Kirk Cousins for a year. He might win you a couple of extra games conceivably, but he's not the guy you want going forward. It's like you're putting a Band-Aid on things with him. Not that Jameis Winston would necessarily be the guy, but a Jameis Winston, if he plays well, he could be kind of another Geno Smith conceivably going forward. And Jameis Winston is a great influence, you know, in the locker room with the other quarterbacks. He's extremely supportive of the other quarterbacks. If he's a backup to J.J. McCarthy, he'll do everything he can to help him, like he's done with Jackson Dart, like he did at New Orleans when one of the quarterbacks was put down by the fans. I mean, he spoke up for the other quarterback and even put down a couple of guys on his own team to have the guys back, you know, who's playing ahead of him. He's a real team player.
Mm-hmm. And it's exciting when he does come out there. I mean, he's not gonna necessarily win you the game. He can necessarily lose you the game too. But you know, when he's out there, he's exciting though. He's dynamic. He don't care. He's one of those quarterbacks. Like I'm a second string quarterback. I'm going out there. I don't care if I win or lose. I'm just going to go out there and toss the football. That's what I'm doing.
Well, let me ask you this, Brian. I'm a Jet fan who goes back to them since I started following football as a little kid. And my guy was Joe Willie Namath. And I remember before they won the Super Bowl, I went to a Jet Buffalo Bill game a couple of years before. I'm at Shea Stadium. Joe Willie throws 5 interceptions. Now, in this day and age, can you imagine it would be all over the news? But at the time he threw 5 interceptions, you know, so be it. It was reported, well, he didn't play well, but no one got hyper. Can you imagine any quarterback throwing 5 legitimate picks in the game? Brett Favre used to throw a share of interceptions, didn't he? But we admired him as being a gunslinger because he'd have success otherwise. I think they're making these quarterbacks to be too timid. I hate turnovers. I agree with you on that. But if you're going to be so scared of turnovers, you're really going to compromise the offense.
Yeah, you know what's funny? Sometimes when I listen to Green Bay fans about Aaron Rodgers, that's one thing they said they did not like about Aaron Rodgers because he would be too timid with the ball. Now, you're talking about a quarterback that's going to go into the Hall of Fame, but at the same time, they're saying, well, he never took a lot of chances down the field because he didn't want to be picked off or anything like that. And to some of the game that you do watch, he does throw careful passes. He's not trying to gunsling it like his predecessor. I mean, you know, the guy before him, Brett Favre. And Stafford's on that same level too. But Stafford's on the same Brett Favre level. He's a gunslinger too, and he has his days where he can get like 2 or 3 pick sixes. It could happen with him too. But
pick sixes are devastating. That's the one thing you can't. But and interceptions are different. Like if you have 3rd down, you know, and you throw a long pass and it gets intercepted and the guy doesn't return it, it's nearly the same as a punt in a certain sense. So that
early punt, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, to be fair, some of these quarterbacks like Stafford, I've seen him throw a couple of pick sixes and still win the game because he's that kind of a quarterback. But and I think that Brett Favre has done it. I think that has done that a couple of times himself. I mean, JJ is he's not going to be on those terms. Minnesota's shooting themselves in the foot. They had something good with Sam Darnold there. I thought they had signed him for 1 more year so JJ could sit behind him and when he's healthy.
Well, they could have franchised him for 1 year. Darnold was not a great. But I don't second guess. I didn't like McCarthy coming out of college. I didn't think he was a franchise quarterback. Vikings apparently did because they traded up just one spot with the Jets because they were scared they'd lose, and they gave the Jets a third-round draft pick to go from like 11 to 10. So how do you turn that down? And when Jim Harbaugh, J.J. McCarthy's coach at Michigan, said J.J. McCarthy is the best player in the draft, you know what I thought to myself? If you really believe that, and you're the new coach of the Chargers, even though Justin Herbert is your guy, Justin Herbert hasn't been that great the last couple of years. But Justin Herbert, you can get some maybe 3 number 1 draft picks if you put him out there for another team. You know, at least 2 number 1s, maybe 2 number 2s scattered out or whatever. And then you draft J.J. McCarthy if you really believe he's the best guy in the draft. But I think maybe Jim Harbaugh was kind of boosting his guy a little. Look, you're a Michigan fan. You're a lot more, competent to qualified to give an opinion on J.J. McCarthy coming out of college than I am. I mean, I see him play at selected times. You followed him all year. Did you think he was going to be a top-level NFL quarterback?
No, I thought he'd probably go in maybe the 4th round,
Wow.
end of the 3rd, beginning of the 4th. He's one of those quarterbacks that you got to have everything right around him, basically, and then you got to make sure you involve him in the game, because he did hand the ball off quite a few times. Michigan had a really good running game when they won the national championship, but he did win some games by his arm too. People don't want to, he not as many as the run game did, but still he had. I just don't think that he was an NFL ready quarterback. I think it's going to take him some time to be that. Not automatically getting him in the 1st round and starting him. That's not going to help him at all. And that's the reason why I was kind of disappointed in Minnesota, because they didn't at least franchise tag Sam Darnold. At least JJ could have sat behind him for another year.
Yeah.
And learn something.
Sam Darnold was so bad the last 2 games. He was awful. It was painful to watch Sam Darnold the last 2 games. So I don't think people were complaining. I don't think Viking fans were outraged. And but if Sam Darnold, but if hypothetically, if the Vikings did that, they franchise tag Sam Darnold, he would have been starting this season. Okay. Mm-hmm. And let's say Darnold played really well. We wouldn't have gotten to see J.J. McCarthy. So we still couldn't evaluate him. And now we're kind of evaluating him negatively. So I don't know whether that would have solved things at all, if they franchise tagged him.
Well, I don't think that it's necessary to see to the fans to make that judgment. It's necessary to his team to make that judgment. If they sat him behind Sam Darnold, had they signed Sam Darnold for another year or franchise tag him for another year, at least he would have got some kind of veteran presence back there to tell him what because he is attentive. He has been, even when he was hurt, he was to the meetings. But you actually have to experience it, be in your uniform and hearing the calls and seeing him on the field. And he wasn't really doing that. He wasn't on the field that much. Doing that. He was at the meetings, but he wasn't on the field.
And the Vikings have the weapons.
Yeah, and they got the weapons. So he should be, people say, well, he should fit. And I was one of them. I said he should fit right in. If he's a capable quarterback, he should fit right in because he's got enough weapons around him. But it didn't work out that way.
Justin Jefferson, Aaron Jones. I mean,
yeah, they got plenty of weapons. But anyway, I see. I'm also saying the Commanders are going to win that game as well. The next game we got is Cincinnati at Buffalo. This is a weird game because Cincinnati is just coming off of really kind of kicking the Ravens' butt, and Buffalo has been playing. They win games they're supposed to. We got one of our commenters in here, Monkey. He's a Buffalo fan. Who do you see in this game, Jack?
I'm going to just say something about Cincinnati. This is virtually a must-win game for them. Virtually must-win because the Ravens are playing the Steelers, and they're 2 games behind both teams. If Cincinnati loses, they're going to be 3 games behind one team with what's their record now? 4-8 to 5-8, 4-8.
Yeah, they are 4-8. Yeah, so
They're
they're 2
4
games
and 8.
behind.
They're going to be 4-9. They'll have 4 games left, and they'll be 3 games behind the division winner. It's a long shot to get to the playoffs, then a real long shot. But if they win today, they're going to be 2 games behind the division winner, and they'll still have head-to-head competition games, left. But they have to win at Buffalo. Wow, that's a monster chore. I mean, it's this, you could talk about Joe Burrow coming back, doing this and that. They looked good when Burrow came back last game. I mean, in Buffalo, how do you pick against Buffalo to lose to Cincinnati? But if Cincinnati should win in Buffalo, look out. They're going to make a run at the division title if they get by Buffalo. But that's going to be tough. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. Buffalo wins something like 34-29. I don't know what's going on at Buffalo, who didn't they get off waivers like Elijah Moore, if I'm not mistaken? Did he go elsewhere?
I think they did.
Keon Coleman, what the heck's going on with Keon Coleman there? Who was the number 1 draft choice out of Florida there. He's, what the heck's going on? And the Bengals are going to get a big boost with T. Higgins coming back, joining Jamar Chase.
Well, Keon Coleman, I guess what's going on with him is he's missing team meetings, and he's kind of pissing off the Buffalo front office and coaches and stuff like that. So that's why he sat him a couple times, and he's not been effective. Not really been effective at the beginning of the season. So that's probably
improving. He was improving though of his rookie year. But what's with these guys missing team meetings? What's going through their head? The lack of maturity. What is with these guys? I don't get it. I could understand a veteran, and first off, no, I don't condone anyone missing a team meeting. Don't get me wrong. That's out of line, no matter who the player is, no matter how great he is. It could be Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, unacceptable. But a second-year player like that, missing meetings, and he's on one of the top teams in the NFL. He's not in a bad situation.
Yeah, I mean, when they inserted him last week, he did get a touchdown. I don't know if you sit somebody in a corner long enough that they understand certain things. These young players that are coming into the NFL now, they're kind of all over the place. I don't. There's no structure on some of these players like there were back in the 90s and the 80s when they came in and played as a rookie. There's not really much structure anymore, and there's really not much of a onus on doing certain things in the NFL that they used to do. So I don't know. I think it's just player discipline. That's all it is to it.
Brian, the problem is, and this is in all sports, all team sports, for the most part, the owners don't have the coaches back 100%. The coaches should be allowed to discipline players how they want, especially highly paid players. You sit him on the bench and make him miss a game. The owner thinks, well, I'm paying him all this money. He should be playing. And the player's agent gets in touch with the owner, and the owner says, you guys settle things instead of standing behind the coach firmly 100%. Certain owners are going to do that. Certain coaches have control of their program. Like I believe Dan Campbell, for example, at Detroit, he has complete control. Any decision he's going to make, I got to believe ownership has his back. Correct me if I'm wrong. But even take a case hypothetically. If Andy Reid runs into a problem with a Travis Kelce or Patrick Mahomes, especially Patrick Mahomes, he doesn't like the attitude. And he decides, I'm going to sit them for like a half a game until they get the message. Ownership would get involved, and chances are they take a player's side. Now, Keon Coleman's not of that status, but, you just kind of wonder, Sean McDermott, how much control he has there. I think he does, but I kind of wonder a little bit.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, Kevin, too. One game is cool, but not two when you have 3 wide receivers on the injury report. Yeah, that's ridiculous. And that's the other thing, too. You're right about the team, how they discipline their players, too, and what they're allowed to do. With Dan and Brad, though, Brad usually runs that show. Brad will go in there and have. I mean, they listen to each other. They're grown men. They listen to each other, so they Brad's going to listen to Dan because Dan is the one that has the heartbeat of the team. So, I don't think that McDermott is a bad coach in that sense either. I just think maybe in this case they might have went over. They might overbearing. Having Keon Coleman sit out. I think you should. One game is fine.
Right. The best message you send to a team, he's on the bench all game. And the other players notice. They notice he's a screw up. That gets the player to toe the line because he's not going to have the support of his teammates. You're not playing. You're not out here helping us. You screwed up somehow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said, one game is fair enough, but I think they overextended that punishment to 2 games. I think they should have done that, especially with the injuries they had. And as Monkey said, they had when their number 1 receiver Kincaid was out. I mean, when it's a mess,
they'll be running the ball with James Cook, and the Bengal defense is lacking, as far as stopping the run. So I look for James Cook to have a big day, over 100 yards.
Yeah, I think he'll have a great day too. I think Cincinnati's playoff run is going to start and stop right there. Even with Joe Burrow back. And let's see, Denver is going to the Raiders. They're favored by 8. Who do you got in this game there, Jack?
Well, the question, Brian, is could this be considered a trap game for the Broncos? The Raiders have talent, individual talent. You could look, Max Crosby, one of the best defensive ends. Ashton Genty, who they drafted. I mean, Brock Bowers, who I think is going to the Hall of Fame, who the Jets screwed up their tight end by not drafting him. So they have individual pieces and talent, but what are they playing for? What are they playing for, the Raiders? The Broncos are playing for home field advantage, getting a bye. Sean Payton's been stressing correctly so how important that bye is. And they're going neck and neck with the Patriots right now for the bye. And it depends who blinks first, the Patriots or the Broncos, to see who, gets in that number 1 position. I like the Broncos to win without much fuss, something like 27-10.
The only thing that worries me about the Broncos, I mean, their defense is fine, but those fourth quarters, man, those fourth quarters seem to do something to them, either positive or negative. I need the Broncos to actually just put a beating on one team just to show me that they can make it through the whole game without having to worry about the fourth quarter. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And this could be the team that they do it. But again, this is a division team. And the Raiders usually play everybody hard in division. They don't win, but they play hard in the division game. So, I got the Broncos winning this again. I think 8 points is too much to give up. I think they'll probably win by about 6, maybe a touchdown. I just
the Raiders are going to be in the market for quarterback next year. Maybe they'll be in the market for coach. I have to assume Pete Carroll is coming back next year. There's not talk about him getting let go. This has been a disaster of a year. But who's going to be out there for the Raiders? Drafting a quarterback's not going to be the answer, at least for next year. Whoever they draft isn't going to come in and turn their fortunes around. So we'll see who's a free agent, who's not. And it might be slim pickings out there to get like any type of a franchise quarterback.
Well, what do you think about this? Cleveland has their quarterback issues. I don't see Shedeur Sanders staying in Cleveland past this year.
No, forget about it. Listen, let's stop it there. He went in the 5th round. If there was any interest in him, they would have taken him next year.
That's true.
Listen, would a team take Shedeur
they wouldn't have to pay him
off the Browns' hands? Yeah, I mean, if the Raiders could give a 4th-round draft choice and get Shedeur, would they conceivably do it? Yeah, but no one's gonna. It's not worth it to Cleveland to give up a 4th round, to get a 4th-round pick for Shedeur at this point. I don't think. And there's going to be no one for Cleveland to draft. We don't want to talk about Cleveland, but they're going to come back next year with Pickett, Sanders, and Deshaun Watson. We're going to have like a replay, but the focus is going to be, I think, on Deshaun Watson next year. And we'll see how it plays out. Maybe Shador plays well the rest of the year. I will say one thing. You mentioned Shador. He's either going to do one or two things: play himself out of the court of public opinion, or put the pressure on the Browns in the court of public opinion based on how he plays the rest of the way. But the rest of the way could end today. If he plays a bad game against Tennessee, I think they're going back to Dylan Gabriel next week. And I think, in a sense, Kevin Stefanski, who you think is going to be gone, and I'm not so sure, they didn't want Shador Sanders to be their guy, but at least they could say, well, we gave Shador a chance. He, didn't play particularly well. And that gets them off the hook, with public pressure.
Yeah, I think more of that is the ownership that made Shador Sanders get played in that position, because they do have another quarterback back there that they could have put in there if they really wanted to be, if Kevin Stefanski really wanted to be petty about the whole situation, he could have played that quarterback. But
well,
I think
Jerry Jeudy is getting into arguments with Shador on the sideline. That's a bad look. If Shador throws 4 touchdown passes today, what's going to be the headline news, some of it on Sports Center? It's going to be Shador, even though the Titan-Brown game is one of the weak games on the schedule today.
Yeah, I'm telling you, there's going to be a lot of flowers coming out for Shador if he does that. But anyway, again, we're going back to Cleveland. We need to stop doing it.
Yeah, well, Cam Ward, let's just mention with Tennessee. I'm not sure what to make out of Cam Ward. I mean, we don't blame him for Tennessee having a poor year. He's having a typical rookie year, making mistakes. What is Cam Ward's upside exactly? He doesn't strike me as being the next C.J. Stroud or Jaden Daniels or even Caleb Williams right now, but he is showing some potential. So in his case, they're treating him like the old-fashioned NFL rookies. They're letting him grow over 2-3 years because Tennessee really believes he's their guy of the future and that they're not going to be disappointed. They just have to give him better building blocks, things around him.
Mm-hmm. And that's a good point. He doesn't have anything around him, so you really can't see his true talent in that sense. I mean, he is making a lot of plays out of nothing sometimes, and sometimes he's making bad decisions because he's got to make plays out of nothing. So, I mean, and that's a rookie quarterback for you. That's fine. But once they start putting things around Cam, then we'll understand how he's doing. He's a big guy. He's been handling it really well. He hasn't taken on too many big hits. So we'll see how he does for the rest of the season. And then maybe next year the Tennessee will get themselves together and get him some more weapons around him so he don't have to feel like he's the only one trying to win the game. And that'll stop him from making a lot of rookie mistakes in his sophomore year. Next game is a big game in the NFC North. We have the Chicago Bears taking on the Green Bay Packers. This is, to me, the next 2 out of 3 games that these two are playing. This is for a division title, to me. So,
well, the Packers have that tied game on their schedule from early in the year against the Cowboys. So there won't be a tiebreaker involved, in that division. Hey, I thought the Bears were on this type of run where they were getting every break, winning every close game, just like last year where they lost every close game. They showed me something on Black Friday, going into Philadelphia and legitimately beating the Eagles. Now I've got to take notice. Maybe the Bears are just better than I thought. No one felt the Bears were Super Bowl contenders before the Eagle game. They were just winning games. Great year. They're building towards something. They look like they have a good chance of making the playoffs, but they're not a Super Bowl threat. That was the feeling before the Eagle game. Now, we got to take weapon. The Bears are talented. Odunze, they're really wide receiver. I don't want to say primary because he's had an in and out year, connecting with Caleb Williams. He won't be in the lineup today. But that game, how do you – I know it's not because it's in Green Bay. We've seen the Packers lose a couple of games at Lambeau this year. They could be beaten there. I got to like the Packers in this game, over the Bears. It would be a gutsy pick to say the Bears are going to do it again. They beat the Eagles. Now they beat the Packers. But if the Bears should go into Green Bay and beat the Packers, do we start looking at the Bears as being more than just having a legitimate chance to go to the Super Bowl? Do we look at them, as crazy as this seems, as maybe being a powerhouse team? A powerhouse team if they should win in Green Bay.
I mean, if they win in Green Bay, that'll be impressive to them. I mean, that means they'll have the stranglehold on the well, not necessarily won't have a stranglehold because they got to win both games against Green Bay for that to happen. But it's a step in the right direction for them to win that the division title. And I just think Green Bay, their defense plays really well every game. But the problem is their offense isn't on. I don't know what's going on with Jordan Love right now. I mean, he plays some games, he plays good, and in other times it's like, dude, what are you doing? And and I don't think Chicago has that great of I think they have a good defense. I don't think they have that great of a defense. I don't think they can put enough pressure on Jordan Love to make him making decisions. But again, this is a division game. So I kind of separate what Chicago did with Philadelphia, although impressive, both a division game with Green Bay, because that's a division game, and it's Green Bay. So
I like Micah Parsons to have a sensational game and make life miserable for Caleb Williams, get a couple of sacks, a lot of pressures, and I'm looking for him to come up big. Yeah, Packers 23-14, something like that.
Yeah, I have Green Bay in this game too. Green Bay is, let me tell you something, they're a proud organization. They don't like the fact that they're not in the lead in that division, because I can tell you right now, just on a fan perspective, they think they own that division. So they're going to want to win that game.
That was Aaron Rodgers during the Aaron Rodgers era.
Yeah.
And you mentioned with Jordan Love, he got the big contract. They committed to him because they moved up in the first round to draft him when Aaron Rodgers was still really good. And then Aaron Rodgers proceeded to win MVP awards 2 years in a row. So you can't play Jordan Love then. And then Rodgers, that third year after that, was kind of injured, had a so-so year. So they moved on. But Jordan Love had 3 years in. So they knew they'd have to deal with this contract 1 year later. So they paid him as one of the highest QBs in the league based on potential. And would they do it over again if they had a chance? Maybe. It's not easy to get franchise quarterbacks. And I guess Jordan Love is their franchise quarterback. But when we talk about the top 10 QBs in the NFL, his name never quite comes up. His name just doesn't quite come up ever. And can you win with Jordan Love as your quarterback? Yeah, I think you can. But yeah, he still has upside. And in reality, this is what? It's like third year, like he's playing, getting full, he's playing
his third playing year, yeah.
So maybe if we take the mentality, it takes a few years for a young quarterback to develop, that he's coming along well. You can make that argument if you want.
I mean, statistically, he's better than average. If you just go by the stats, I mean, when I go by my eye test, there's still things that in your third year you should not be doing, like overthrowing a wide open receiver.
Yeah,
that stuff has got to stop. I don't understand how he does that. He's got talented receivers on there, though none of them are really number one receivers, but he's got like Christian Watson. I've seen him overthrow him a couple of times, and he's wide open. I mean, wide open. I'm like, dude, this is your third year. You should hit that guy in a run. That should be no problem, doing that. And he does this at least once or twice every game. So I'm looking for more consistency where he can hit those passes, and he's just not doing it. And that's the only thing that bothers me about Jordan Love. Being in your third season, you should be doing that by now.
And Josh Jacobs just slipped under the radar, as running back. He's one of the better running backs in the league, but for some reason his name doesn't come up.
Yeah, he's not had a really good year this year either. The backup running back has actually been playing really well, Wilson. Yeah. And the same thing can be said about the Chicago Bears, though. I mean, with Swift and Monangai out there, Monangai has been really tearing it up. Rookie running backs usually do because nobody has tape on them. So, he can probably hit a hole that people don't expect him to hit. And, he's going to make good out of that. So next year will be his year. We find out what kind of running back he is. But he's helping Swift out. Swift is getting good runs because of him. But we'll see how that happens. I mean, like I said, they're going against a pretty good defense. And I do have Green Bay in this one as well. Next game we got is the LA Rams at the Arizona Cardinals. The Rams are coming off of kind of like, I would say, an embarrassing loss to the Carolina Panthers, but I slowly put all that on Stafford's shoulders because he's the one basically, to me, lost the game. So what do you got in this game?
Well, the Cardinals announced that Kyler Murray won't be back this year. He hasn't played for a while. And Jacoby Brissett, competent. If Jacoby Brissett plays well the rest of the year, it's buyer beware. He shouldn't be the Cardinals starter next year. But these teams get suckered into things and they feel, Jacoby Brissett, he could run the offense. He's going to start for us next year. Big disappointment, the Cardinals. Arguably, they're the most disappointing team to me in the NFL this year, the season they've had. The Rams losing the way they did to the Panthers, it's going to be a bounce back. Stafford played a poor game. Rams should go into Arizona and win this easy, something like 33-14.
Yeah, I pretty much think this is going to be a bounce back game for the Rams too. I don't see Stafford having two bad games like that. And, you can't, like we were talking about pick sixes before, that's really what changed the outcome of the game. And then when he had the ball, he lost it. Got stripped from him. So, and that's not Stafford like when he has game-winning drives.
Just forget about it. It was a bad game. It was just
it's a bad
game. Throw it out. And I think Stafford, a veteran like him, who's been around forever, he'll move on from it pretty quickly, as will the whole Ram team. And I think they'll prove it today.
Yeah. All right. Then we got Houston at Kansas City. Texans are taking on the Chiefs. Texans been hot lately. Their defense has been really playing outstanding football. Chiefs kind of stumbling and bumbling a little bit, even though Mahomes against Dallas on Thursday night, Thanksgiving, he played pretty well. The rest of his team kind of was flat. But who do you see winning this game?
I don't have a clue. I mean, I don't. I mean, it's so evenly matched. Chiefs have a pretty good defense themselves. We talk about Houston having arguably the best defense in the NFL, but with all the Patrick Mahomes talk, Chiefs have a darn good defense. And it's at Kansas City. Mahomes said after the last game, we now have to run the table. And I hate talk like that. A team is 6-6 with 5 games to go. That's in a bad position running the table. Because that means to win the Super Bowl, you've got to win your next 9 games in a row. I mean, but they got to, and it's easy to say go week to week, and let's see where it takes us. But with the Chiefs now, with 6 losses there, you got to maybe look, they can't afford a loss in the worst way. Houston can't either when you look at it because they're battling the Colts and Jacksonville for the division title. But at least Houston, if they took a step backwards, could then go forward because with the Colts and Jaguars, they both could be a little erratic. In Kansas City, I see the defense is stepping up. And you're right about Patrick Mahomes makes something out of nothing. Okay, and I see the Chiefs finding a way to win the game. Something like 17-16, maybe winning at a field goal as time expires.
Yeah, I think the difference between the Texans position and the Chiefs position is that the Texans has at least beat both of the division leaders once. And the Chiefs haven't beat the Broncos. I mean, they've got swept by the Broncos, I believe. They lost both games against the Broncos, and they lost a game against the Chargers too. So, I mean, they really can't afford to lose any more games because they're so far down in that division right now. I mean, they're not Las Vegas down, but they can't afford to lose any more games. And Patrick Mahomes is right. They're going to have to run a table for them to get in the playoffs, period. They're going to have to. You got no choice.
But Brian, there's certain teams like the Chiefs, the Bengals, who it doesn't look like they're going to make the playoffs this year. But don't let them get in the playoffs, because if they get in the playoffs, you're not getting the same team you got during the regular season. You give them a clean slate, they're going to be very dangerous for whoever they play.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I think the Chiefs, if they get in the playoffs, you don't want to see them in the playoffs. I don't care what their record was. And that's the thing I don't like about the Chiefs a lot of times, too. I think they just play enough so they get in the playoffs so they can turn on a different level. And then once they get in the playoffs, they're pretty much untouchable.
Yeah, but then you wonder, 6 losses. They've had other games where they knew they had to win, and they couldn't win. So what makes us think they're going to, they could run the table? Of course, it's possible, but to ask them to go 5-0 the rest of the way to make the playoffs, I mean, in a sense, it seems cut and dry for the Chiefs. You could say, if they go 4-1, they probably don't make the playoffs. If they go 5-0, they probably sneak in. So it's pretty cut and dry. They're like a college team, how it used to be trying to win a national championship, where college teams in the past couldn't afford to lose one game. Most could lose one game to win the national championship, but it behooved them to be unbeaten. Chiefs have to be unbeaten the rest of the way, and not to win the Super Bowl. They got to go 9-0 essentially.
Yeah, basically. I mean, they could be the team to do that, though. That's the thing about the Chiefs. But
if it all comes together, it's possible.
Yeah, if it all comes together, I just don't see it starting today. I think Houston beats them, and I think that's probably take the Chiefs out of the whole situation. Yeah, it's pretty much over for the Chiefs.
When would have been the last time that late in the season, if that happens, Houston wins, where the Chiefs are playing games that aren't that meaningful? Can you imagine the Chiefs, the last game of the season, they're like 8-8? What's the mentality? We're playing for winning record. I mean, when has the Chiefs ever been in a meaningless game as far as the playoffs?
Right.
Concerned? Even before Patrick Mahomes started, they made the playoffs with Alex Smith as the quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, they're a very capable team. I think Patrick Mahomes put them over the top once he started playing there. But every dynasty has to go through something like this anyway. And I still think the Chiefs have a pretty good dynasty. I just don't think that this is their year. If you look at it, Philadelphia had a couple of those years too when they were on there, with this current regime that they're under, where they won a Super Bowl and had a pretty good year the next year. But then one year they were like, 4 or 5 and something, and they didn't win the division. They stunk. But then the next year they bounced back and came back and played really well, and then they got to the Super Bowl a couple of years later. So, you got to take it's kind of like a breathing moment for the Chiefs. Maybe they just got to take a breath and say, well, maybe this isn't our year. If they lose to the Texans, this is what they should be saying. It's not our year this year, but we'll regroup. If Kelsey retires, we got to find somebody to take his place, whatever the case may be.
People don't understand sports. It's so hard to get to just one Super Bowl. And it's so hard to year after year to get to a conference championship game, even if you don't win it year after year. That's why what the Patriots did for a couple of decades and what the Chiefs did was so remarkable. I mean, you get spoiled when you go on a run of championships. People expect it. It's so hard to win just one, because you have every franchise who's vying for the same thing.
Yeah, and that's true. I mean, it's hard to win any championship in any league. And people just don't understand that fact. They say, oh, well, they're supposed to do this and they're supposed to do that. And you can see what's happening to both of the Super Bowl contenders last year. They're both struggling. I mean, Philadelphia's in a better place than Kansas City is, but still Philadelphia is struggling. They lost to Chicago. I mean, come on.
Well, just between James, a Saints fan, you a Lion fan, myself a Jet fan, since the Super Bowl started, close to 60 years ago, our teams have been in the Super Bowl a combined 2 times total. So that should just tell you how hard it is to get there.
and thinking about that too, at least if you're going by analytics, if there's 32 teams in the NFL, you think one team would get it, there would be a match for match. So to say that the Jets been in it once and the Saints been in it once, they both won. Lions have never been in it. That's almost 60 years of Super Bowl that these teams have been in, and they can't get but one championship. You know what I'm saying? 2 championships in between three teams. That tells you how rough it is.
Yeah.
But yeah. Speaking of those Philadelphia Eagles, on Monday night they're going to the Chargers. They're taking on that in LA. They're the Chargers in LA. They're favored by 2.5 points. Who you got in this game? This is another tough game to kind of predict.
Yeah, I gotta feel the Eagles are going to rebound. I mean, not dominate the game. It's going to be a close game, but they'll find a way to get it done. Nick Sirianni now is getting more involved with the offense, with the play calling, and he's putting a stamp on it now. Okay, no excuses. They've won. I mean, they've lost their last 2 games, but you kind of wonder in what direction is the offense headed. They've had problems with their passing game, a lack of it. But Saquon Barkley he's not the same player. I mean, I can't believe in 1 year Saquon Barkley has aged and has lost some explosiveness. It does happen, but I can't believe it. What is going to be the method of operation on the offense going forward? Is it going to be the passing game, more emphasis on the running game? I don't know. Maybe the defenses have been, lined up to stop Saquon Barkley as the primary weapon. Maybe that's contributed to it. I don't know the reason, but we know there's turmoil in Philadelphia. There's real turmoil there going on. And it'll stop for the time being with the win over the Chargers in LA. And I think the Eagles will get it. I see them winning this one 23-20. But if they lose this game, and they lose it because the offense isn't functioning, it gets ugly in Philadelphia. If the Eagles' defense lets them down, but you see Barkley has a good game, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, the fans are going to be a little less hype on Philadelphia if that happens. And they wouldn't blame Sirianni as much if it's just a defensive collapse to a degree. But offensively, that's where everyone is focused on Philadelphia. Like, what the heck is going on? Are they using the players the right way?
Well, I think this point that Monkey makes, Hurts not being such a dual threat this season, Barkley gets targeted more. That's the truth. I mean, last year, Hurts was that guy that was the contributing factor for Barkley really getting those 2,000 yards because you had to respect Hurts running. And then you couldn't really fully come in and commit to the run because of either one of them. It was kind of like the whole Lamar Jackson Henry type of situation. If you got a running quarterback and you got a great running back in itself, it's hard to defend that. And both of the teams last year showed that they could do that. Now look at them this year. It's like either one of them, you have a limp quarterback in one team, and you have this quarterback they're not utilizing right on the Philadelphia Eagles. And this is the reason why the running games aren't working well, and this is why their offense isn't working well. It's it's basic things, and I don't understand why offensive coordinator Pachulia isn't understanding that whole situation. You should be looking back at what Kellen Moore did. I'm not saying you have to be doing Kellen Moore plays, but at the same time, utilize your quarterback the way he should be utilized so your running back has more space to run, and then you can throw the football because then you could go to the play action a lot of times. And it's the whole thing's a mess, and it don't need to be a mess. And Jalen Carter is going to be out in this game as well for defense. And the Philadelphia defense is not that great either. They're playing mid. They're not. They win some games for you. Sometimes it's mostly special teams that they're doing a really good job on this year. That's the best position they're having a great time on. But the defense, I'm not buying Philadelphia right now until I see them change that offense. I'm gonna take the Chargers. I'm taking the Chargers.
Well, the Chargers have problems with the offensive line more so than the majority of teams. With Joe Alt out the season,
And Slater.
They're getting Amari Hampton back, so their running game should pick up today. it should be a very close game down to the wire. And the Chargers have had some problems too. They've kind of slipped under the radar when we talk about which teams could go to the Super Bowl. But Jim Harbaugh's done a good job there. Nick Sirianni, when you look at all the guys accomplished, for him to come under the criticism he does, Philadelphia is a tough place to coach. I'll tell you that with the Eagles. I mean, the fan base there. A couple of years ago, it's still hanging on people's minds with the Eagles after they went to a Super Bowl that they barely lost, that they should have beaten the Chiefs that year. The year was going great, and then they collapsed at the end of the year. It seemed like they quit late in the season, losing a number of games, and then in the playoff game to the Buccaneers, they performed poorly. It seemed like there was no motivation there. And it seemed like the Eagles were a team that was sinking, and then they come back next year and win the Super Bowl. But can they turn it around past mid-season, late in the year, get it back together? With the last couple of games, just a bit of an aberration where they need a reset. Sometimes a team just needs a reset and to all get focused together, meet again. This isn't us, guys. Let's get back to being the Philadelphia Eagles. And
also, just to put in some other things too, with Marion Hampton coming back. Also, Herbert just came off surgery, so he's coming back for this game. So that might be a little rusty game for him because he came off surgery off one of his hands. I think it was the left or right. I can't remember what hand it is, but he had surgery on it. So we'll see how he plays with that. That might be something to look at in that game too, because if they're going to focus on running, they should focus on the running first and then the passing, because that's usually what Harbaugh likes to do. But that'll be an interesting game. I like I said, I had the Chargers winning that one until I see something from the Eagles that's going to make me believe that they're going to be contending, because it kind of reminds me of the 23 season when they didn't have a good offensive or a good defensive coordinator, and they were just all over the place. And then they started off really well, and then they just kind of faded at the end of the season. And then other than that will conclude our games for this day. There was a question that I wanted to give to you there, Jack, that we had before. Hold on just a minute. Here we go. It was asked, do you think who's in the worst position, J.J. Penix or Rattler?
Rattler's in the worst position. That's a fair question, because Rattler was given a starting position with the Saints and it didn't work out. And Shuck is taking over. They're not going to go back to Rattler next year as the starter. The only way Rattler could conceivably be a starter for the Saints in the future, if an injury takes place, he fills in the rest of the year, plays great, then comes to camp next year. I don't see it. Penix is going to be the starter for the Falcons next year. He's going to be the starter. I mean, Kirk Cousins isn't going to be there next year. I mean, and even if the Falcons draft a quarterback, they're not going to start him ahead of Penix next year. I don't think they'll draft a quarterback, but who on earth thought they would have used the 8th overall selection after signing Cousins as a free agent to draft a quarterback in Penix? I mean, that blindsided everyone, especially Cousins. So I think Rattler's in the worst position. I don't even know will he be with the Saints next year. And if it is, it's going to be in the backup role. But Penix is going to be starting for the Falcons.
Yeah, I wonder how it's going to set with Rattler next year too, mind-wise, because his mentality, because, he was the rookie the previous year. And this was his sophomore year, and he still couldn't, he's still not getting a starting job. So I wonder how that's going to sit with him mentally.
He wasn't drafted highly, Brian.
I know.
Rattler was a number 1 draft pick who thought he'd have a future there. He'd start. You know how teams look at it too. It's like they look to see what their investment was. A 5th-round draft choice isn't an investment, okay? They don't have to stick with a guy. We were talking about J.J. McCarthy before. Had J.J. McCarthy been drafted in the 4th round, would we even be talking about him maybe starting for the Vikings next year? Because he was a 1st-round pick who they gave up extra draft capital to get, they invested a lot. They look bad if they move on from him too quickly. So they give him every chance to succeed. I mean, that's just the way it works. Where you draft a guy determines how much slack you're going to give him. That's why you get these guys who are drafted very highly, like a Zach Wilson with the Jets, and now he's with the Dolphins. Yeah, they're always going to have a roster spot because he was the number 2 overall pick in the draft. Marcus Mariota, had he been drafted in the 6th round instead of being the 2nd overall pick in the draft behind Jameis Winston that year, Mariota might not even be in the league still.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I do think Penix is in a bad position too because he's injury prone, and this is his 2nd year. He's been injury prone all in his last 2 years. Do you think that obviously Cousins is not going to be on the team next year? Do you think they draft another quarterback, Atlanta?
The way things look now, they'll have a reasonably high draft pick. But let's see what their record is at the end of the year, who might fall to them. Sometimes teams take a player at a position they didn't anticipate would be available, and he kind of falls to them in a way because they like him a lot. That makes some sense with Mac Jones with the Falcons. It does make some sense. But if the Falcons sign Mac Jones, that means they've given up on Penix. I haven't been impressed with Penix when he played. He'd miss a lot of wide open receivers. But what did the Falcons think of Penix? They drafted him number 8 overall. Are they willing to give up on him now? And there's the X factor. It's unlikely Raheem Morris is going to be back. So the new coach is either going to be told, are you willing to have Penix as your quarterback? And his job might depend on it if that's what the GM and ownership are for. So the new coach is going to have to live life with Penix, or will the new coach be given a complete say? He could decide who his quarterback is. He's going to be allowed to make the decisions. We don't know how that's going to transpire in the offseason.
Yeah, it's probably one of those interviews that's going to happen where they have to, bring in Word or something like that so they can put on a slideshow for him and say, well, this is this quarterback that you get, or if I can get this quarterback here, this is what he can do for this, and this. It might have to go on that. It might have to be dependent on that. Whatever interview will impress the Atlanta staff more as far as the offense is concerned. I think their defense is fine. And this is another reason why I think Rashid he failed in so many areas. Defenses should not be an area he should have failed at. He should have been fine with defense, but he's showing he's not that coach they need right now. He probably would be a good defensive coordinator. I'm pretty sure he'll probably be somebody's defensive coordinator if and when he gets fired from this gig here. But I don't know. We'll see.
Right, I don't know whether we went over the Seahawks-Falcon game. Did we pass on that? I like the Seahawks by a touchdown.
Yeah, we did that one.
We did that. Okay.
Yeah,
okay, but it depends on the coach. If it's a high-profile coach, he's going to have the independence to call the shots. Well, who might be available? That's the thing about it. I could see a guy like Robert Saleh being given a second chance if the 49ers continue to play well. And certain other assistants. But if you get a guy, a big name, and I don't know any big name who's out there, he's going to have the independence to decide who his quarterback's going to be. And it's up to ownership now. It's not going to be the GM. I mean, are they looking to make a splash by hiring someone? But who would be available who you could make a splash with? And don't tell me Bill Belichick. Forget about him.
Yeah, coaching is kind of thin. You're right. And if it's Salah that they get, I mean, do they think another defensive coach is going to be the answer?
Well, the Falcon defense hasn't been bad this year. That's the thing about it.
They haven't been where they needed to be either. But at the same time, their offense is what you need to fix.
Wait. The Falcon defensive coordinator is Jeff Ulrich, who was Salah's defensive coordinator with the Jets. And when Salah got fired, Ulrich who in Salah, who got along great reportedly, was made the interim coach. So, I mean, I can see that combo being nice. He would keep Jeff Ulrich as his defensive coordinator. They'd ask Salah at the meeting, and if his relationship with Ulrich was as good as reported, he'd say, yeah, I'd love him. I would hire him anyway. I'd love for Jeff to be that. And now it's a question of an offensive coordinator, but they stick with Penix. But what choices do you have? You don't have many other choices. I mean, who's out there to replace him?
I wouldn't have Dable as a head coach, but I would have him as an offensive coordinator. Do you think that would be anything? I mean, he's supposed to be a quarterback kind of coach too. So
I don't see why Daboll's in such demand. I mean, with what he did with the Giants, but I think he's a competent coach. With that said,
I mean, he's a decent offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put him way
We're
up
ending the show with Brian Daboll, his possibilities.
Right. On that note, as Jack has mentioned, this is the end of the show. Thank you for watching. Thank you for commenting. Just catch Jack and Keith tomorrow on the Weekend Playbook at 8 a.m. Also catch Jack and Frank on the Glove to Fist at 7 p.m. Y'all have a very good rest of your day. Enjoy football. Bye-bye.